Hey there, everybody. Welcome. We're in the middle of a series called A Man After God's Own Heart, the life of David in the Bible, and we've been going chapter by chapter through the latter half of the book of First Samuel and into Second Samuel, and now we're nearly to the middle of that. Chapter 13, to be specific. If you can turn your Bibles there and read along with me, go to Second Samuel, chapter number 13. And we're only going to cover the first half of this chapter today. We're calling this David's Family Troubles Begin. We saw in the last two chapters David's great sin against a man named Uriah and his wife Bathsheba. We probably know those two names together, David and Bathsheba. David, when he should have gone off to war, instead stayed home, and while his mighty man Uriah was fighting in the battle, David saw Uriah's wife Bathsheba, called her unto him, and seduced her and impregnated her. And then he puts Uriah in a position in battle to be killed in order to cover up his sin. But God knows what David's done, and he sends Nathan the prophet to him in order to let him know that God is aware and that judgment is going to come to the house of David. The first thing that happened is that baby that he fathered with Bathsheba, after 7 days, died. The Lord took the life of the baby. But then at the end of chapter 12, we learned that God gave them another son whose name was Solomon, and we know Solomon well, the son of David who would take the throne of Israel after his death, and also write 3 books of the Bible, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and the Song of Solomon. And so now we're moving on, and we're going to see the second problem in David's house. Chapter 13 of 2 Samuel, verse number 1. It came to pass after this that Absalom, the son of David, had a fair sister, fair meaning beautiful, whose name was Tamar. And Amnon, the son of David, loved her. So when you read verbiage such as this, it can be a little confusing. Absalom, the son of David, had a sister, and Amnon, the son of David, loved her. What does that mean? Well, Amnon and Absalom and Tamar, they were step siblings, if you will. Absalom and Tamar were full brother and sister. David was their father, and I forget exactly now who was their mother. David has 4 or 5 wives at this point. Hard to keep track of all of them. And so Absalom and Tamar are full brother and sister. Well, Amnon is their half brother. David is his father, as David is theirs, but they have different mothers. And so that's why you see all of both Absalom and Amnon called the son of David, but he is not of the same mother as Absalom and Tamar. So here, Amnon, this step brother, if you will, or I should half brother, that's the proper term. The half brother of Tamar is lovesick for her. Verse number 2. And Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin. And Amnon thought it hard for him to do anything to her. So you can imagine the thought life of Amnon. He is absolutely over the moon for his half-sister Tamar. He loves her, but he also knows that she's a virgin young lady and he has no right to her. She's his half-sister, for goodness sake. And beyond that, she's a pure young lady, a godly young lady. He has no right to her, but he's struggling with these thoughts, these impulses, and these lusts. Verse 3, and here's a very telling statement, and there's a lot of truth in this statement. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shimeah, David's brother. So this would make Jonadab and Amnon cousins, but they're friends. And notice, Jonadab was a very subtle man. And if you don't know this part of the story, I'll spoil a little bit of it before we work our way through it. Jonadab is going to convince Amnon of the right, if you will, or willingness to go ahead and take Tamar as his own. That's no kind of friend. Friends don't encourage you to do wrong. Friends encourage you to do right. Friends don't influence you for sin. Friends influence you for good. And so Amnon had a friend. So if you've got a friend in your life that's always trying to pull you the wrong direction, a friend that's always trying to get you to compromise your convictions or your positions, a friend that's always trying to bring you down spiritually, they're no kind of friend, and you need to get away from them. In the end, Jonadab is going to ruin Amnon's life and ultimately, more spoilers here, cause his death. So let's read the verse again. Verse 3. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shimeah, David's brother. And Jonadab was a very subtle man, meaning he was subversive. He would get people to do what he wanted them to do without them completely realizing that he was not having their best interest at heart. And he said unto him, this is Jonadab speaking to Amnon, Why art thou, being the king's son, lean from day to day? Wilt thou not tell me? And Amnon said unto him, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. And so Jonadab asked him, what's wrong with you? Why are you always down in the dumps? Why are you always, you don't want to eat healthy anymore? You're not taking care of yourself. What's going on? And he says, I'm in love with Tamar, my half-sister. And Jonadab said unto him, Lay thee down on thy bed, and make thyself sick. And when thy father cometh to see thee, say unto him, I pray thee, let my sister Tamar come, and give me meat, and dress the meat in my sight, that I may see it and eat it at her hand. So Jonadab gives Amnon this idea, this scheme, if you will, on how to get Tamar into his bedroom. And so he says, pretend that you're sick and go to bed. And when your dad comes to check on you and he's going to ask you, what can I do to help you, son? Tell him, hey, send Tamar in here, would you? And have her make me some food here in my presence and feed me. That's what would help me. Now, the truth is, Amnon may not have come up with this on his own. And so Jonadab is really setting this trap for him that's going to ruin his entire life. So Amnon lay down and made himself sick. And when the king was come to see him, Amnon said unto the king, I pray thee, let Tamar my sister come, and make me a couple of cakes in my sight, that I may eat at her hand. Then David sent home to Tamar, saying, Go now to thy brother Amnon's house, and dress him meat. So Amnon does exactly what Jonadab recommends that he do. He pretends that he's sick. David comes in, and the plan plays out perfectly. So now David sends Tamar to Amnon's house to feed him. So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he was laid down. And she took flour and kneaded it, and made cakes in his sight, and did bake the cakes. And she took a pan and poured them out before him. But he refused to eat. And Amnon said, Have out all men from me. And they went out every man from him. So there are servants attending to Amnon. And so he tells them, I want everybody to leave the room. So now it's just him and his sister here. Verse 10. And Amnon said unto Tamar, Bring the meat into the chamber, that I may eat of thine hand. And Tamar took the cakes which she had made, and brought them into the chamber to Amnon her brother. And notice, Tamar's just doing what she's told to do. Her father said, Go tend to your brother's health, and that's all she's doing. She's being a good sister here. She's being a good daughter. She's just trying to help who she thinks is this sick young man. Verse number 11, And when she had brought them unto him to eat, he took hold of her, and said unto her, Come, lie with me, my sister. And she answered him, Nay, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Israel. Do not thou this folly. And I whither shall I cause my shame to go? And as for thee, thou shalt be as one of the fools in Israel. Now therefore, I pray thee, speak unto the king, for he will not withhold me from thee. Howbeit he would not hearken unto her voice, but being stronger than she, forced her and lay with her. And so this is non-consensual rape that's going on here between Amnon and Tamar. He tells her, come into bed with me and lie with me. And she says, no, don't do it. You're going to bring shame on me. You're going to bring shame on you. And then she even says, just talk to our father. He'll probably give me to you. So we don't have time to unpack all of that craziness, do we? But he says, no, I want you now. And he pulls her into his bed, and because he's stronger than her, he forces her and rapes her. Notice now, verse 15. Then Amnon hated her exceedingly. Isn't that something? He wanted her so bad. And he didn't want her because he wanted to take care of her. He didn't want her because he wanted to love her. He didn't want her because he wanted to provide for her as a husband would provide for a wife. He only wanted her to use her. And now that he's used her, he's going to throw her away. He hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred wherewith he hated her was greater than the love wherewith he had loved her. And Amnon said unto her, arise, be gone. And so once Amnon is done with her, he throws her out into the street. Can you believe it? What a terrible, horrible thing. And she said unto him, there is no cause. This evil in sending me away is greater than the other that thou didst unto me. But he would not hearken unto her. You know, Amnon could have chosen to keep her and allow her to live in his home and be his wife, but instead he throws her out. Then he called his servant that ministered unto him and said, put now this woman out from me, and bolt the door after her. How about that? He indeed did hate her more than he loved her, didn't he? And that word love there is used very, very loosely. It doesn't mean an agape love. It doesn't even mean a phileo love. It was a porneia love, a lust. And so put her out, bolt the door. And she had a garment of divers colors upon her, for with such robes were the king's daughters that were virgins apparelled. So Tamar, being a young virgin, has this beautiful robe that she's wearing. It was a signifier, number one, that she was royalty, and number two, that she was pure. Then his servant brought her out and bolted the door after her. And so Tamar put ashes on her head, and notice, rent her garment of diverse colors that was on her. To rend means to tear. And that was done in an act of mourning or anger, and in this case, a loss of that purity. She has that garment that represents her purity, and she tears it to say to everyone that she's no longer the pure virginal daughter of the king. She laid her hand on her head and went on crying. So this scene is playing out. Can you imagine seeing a door open, a servant push a young lady out, that door slam closed behind her, and you can hear that bolt sliding into the door jamb so that it cannot be opened. And then this young lady, broken and sobbing, she'd just been raped. She takes that robe and tears it as an act of mourning, puts ashes on her head, lays her hand on her head, rather, and goes on crying. And notice here, her full brother Absalom. And Absalom her brother said unto her, hath Amnon thy brother been with thee? Absalom's no dummy. He knows what's happened. He knows what occurred behind that door. And this is what he tells Tamar. But hold now thy peace, my sister. Settle down. Calm down. Don't say anything. He is thy brother. Regard not this thing. Meaning, don't do anything about this. This is a family matter, and we're going to handle this within the family. So Tamar remained desolate in her brother Absalom's house. And so Tamar moves in with Absalom, and he is going to handle this. And this is what the next half of the chapter that we'll pick up tomorrow will cover. So, a little bit of a cliffhanger here. What's going to happen? What is Absalom going to do? How is he going to respond to what his half-brother Amnon has done to his full sister Tamar? Tune in tomorrow, I suppose. Thanks so much for watching. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.